Sukkot, that's the Hebrew word. Some people say tabernacle. Some people say Feast of Booths. And you know, there are, just like there are a lot of denominations in Christendom, there are a lot of sects, S-E-C-T-S, and a lot of them, some of them have added some things, and some of them may have refrained from doing some things. And we're on a mission to obviously commemorate the feast days, but we're in search of what fits us. Not that we're picking and choosing from his Torah, but we as Hebrew Israelites are desiring to accurately follow his instructions concerning all the feast days, the spring and the fall. But, you know, I was listening to some teachings on Sukkot and just refreshing some of my notes. And I tell you, the biggest thing for me is for each feast day, what is the theme? What is the theme? And of course, you know, by erecting a booth, you know, some are staying in a hotel, have stayed in a hotel for the whole 7 days plus one. Some, you know, may have erected a booth in their backyard, and they go out, they might have dinner or pray out there, and then they may go in. But the main theme of this thing was we had no other alternative but to rely on him in the wilderness. And the booths or whatever that were erected were to keep us out of the elements. And I submit to you folks that even today, he's still providing for us. Yes, I know we got jobs. Some of us got businesses. Some of us are retired. Some of us are working, but we're working as if we're retired. That was a joke. I wasn't being mean-spirited. But the point is, he's still providing for us. He's still providing for us. And I tell you, I really tried this week from last week, because the 7 days are up at sundown today. The 7 days. But, you know, some sects, S-E-C-T-S, again say, hey, but there's an extra day. You know, the Sabbath, you know. And, of course, that brings on a whole lot of discussion. But, you know, let us purpose it in our hearts to find out where we have common ground and go in with that. It's too often, you know, some folks study just to argue. And I'm like, why would you want to do that? What? We shouldn't do that. That's not the purpose of study. Now, I know people say, well, you know, it's part of midrashing, and yeah, well, okay. Okay, all right, I don't want to argue about that. But he provides for us, even when it's you getting up, getting the award, and everybody that's anybody is there, and the people are standing, clapping for you, and you going up, get the reward. Y'all provided that. Y'all provided that. When you turn in your driveway, you know, if you live in a gated community, y'all provided that. When you open your closet door and you got as far as the eye can see. Y'all provided that. See, just like in the wilderness, man, I mean, it was rough, it was tough, they was tired, they was thirsty, they was hungry, they complained, they argued among themselves. They gave the guy that they said, hey, you go talk to him. And then when he would go talk to him, then they want to argue with him. Now, they weren't in the conversation, but human beings, we're funny like that. We're funny like that, and sometimes we don't mean any harm, but a lot of times we misunderstand one another. Sometimes you might be having a bad day, and somebody might say a joke, and you don't take that joke because you're having a bad day. It's not funny. But that person wasn't necessarily being mean-spirited. What's that got to do with Sukkot? Everything. See, it's a time of Thanksgiving. It's a time of being grateful. America borrowed from Sukkot, and we call it Thanksgiving. Yeah, seriously. And see, for it started out, it's solemn because you're just coming out of Yom Kippur, and you're like, maybe another year for me, maybe another year. So, the first day or so, you're like, Father, hey, I repented and I meant what I repented about, and I'm putting things in order that I won't make the same mistake I made last year because you gave me a reprieve. But now we're in Sukkot. I didn't build me a sukkah. But I said, I'm gonna take my time, and I said, and I broke it down. I was like, I thank you for my health. My knee act up occasionally, and I need to cut back on the sugar, but, and I can hear Brenda Stockton's, leave that sugar alone. I can hear she means well, and I receive it that way. But I thank him for my health, and I was getting up and getting ready to go to work, and I'm like, man, sure, it's kind of late. I'm going out here. Now, hey, wait a minute, hold it. Hey. I had to smack myself. I thank you that my business is going well. And then, you get out to bed and you're looking around. I'm like, man, is this mine? Thank you. and folks, I mean, not just for the stuff. Really, not just for the stuff. Because y'all know I'm not one of those, because I have found in my life, if I say something, he might say, all right. He may call me on it. He may call you on it. And I'm not saying you know what your relationship is with the Most High. So I'm not saying you got to do what I do. But I have learned over the years, be careful. Be careful when things get real good, because, don't ever say, I could lose all of this, and as long as I got you, I'll be all right. Don't say that. Please don't say that. Please do not say that. But for 7 days, I hope that during that 7-day period, you found some time. I mean, even if you just thought about your spouse or you thought about your kids or your grandkids, you know, you thought about maybe some really heartfelt friends that you may have. I mean, you just appreciate life, even though things aren't exactly like you like it. See, the thing with the feast days is, what he's saying is, hey, in spite of what's going on, are you going to make time for me? And I'm only using myself as an example. That's it. I'm not into self-promotion. I'm really not. But during the feast days, do you imagine when you're coming to him? Do you ask yourself, am I coming to you because I want some more stuff? Am I keeping these feast days so I can check off my box? How do we really see the Most High in the time of feast days? Is it, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. I don't totally understand what it's all about, but, you know, I'm going to do this anyway. No, listen, get your mind right. Find out what the theme of whatever feast day it is and zero in on that. See, it's what is it, 4 spring and 3 fall? And then again, there's some debate about that because really it might be 3 and 3, but we're still studying. And again, like I said, I'm not studying to get in an argument with somebody. I'm not. You want to fuss about that? You'll fuss by yourself. And you know it's hard to have an argument by yourself. You know, so, you know, in all your study, you know, study for accuracy. Study because it gets you closer to him so that, you know, when you understand better why you're doing what you're doing, it makes it flow so much better. And you get, you yourself, you get something out of it. I mean, you know, everything that we need. He says, what? I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness. So with all of what he's given, we can't find 6 or 7 times throughout the year to put our little stuff on hold for a little while. And even in that, he knows you have obligations. He knows that. He knows we got obligations. You know, folks, let us learn to walk out Torah in the spirit of Torah, more so than just the letter. Because see, when you, and I know some of y'all said, well, what he talking about spirit for? You know, but that's all right. that's all right. Even a guy like me can recognize the move of God. So, but seriously, for a minute, I mean, y'all know I'm kind of silly sometimes. Just bear with me. I'm having fun in church. Y'all mark that day. But no, seriously. See, when you live life, when you're living life in the Spirit, life is sweet. Now, when I used it in that way, I meant the same thing as if you cutting your grass, you going to the store, you bump into somebody, you see somebody or something happens, you respond in a loving manner, even if they don't mean it, in a loving manner. That's walking in the Spirit. See, because if that flow can get cut off that quick and now I revert back to me, hey man, if you don't step off, the Spirit, it's gone just that quick. Why? Because Barry done arrived back on the scene. See, so saints, sometimes we confuse people because one minute we're real ethereal, and the next minute we slicing and dicing with our tongues. Now, what spirit are you in? Just a question. Just a question, not an accusation. I mean, he provides everything for us. Everything. I was mowing my lawn yesterday. I had a very good Friday, and I was out mowing the lawn, and these guys came by. They were in the truck, and I was like, oh, here we go. I'm mowing my lawn. Guy came down, he went around the cul-de-sac, came back up, stopped. I'm still trying to live in the Spirit. But I'm like, oh boy. Sometimes, when you're at home, you just feel so peaceful. You just feel, it's just so nice. And if the phone rings, you can let the voicemail get it. But the guy stopped and he said, he introduced himself, he gave me his card. I cut the lawnmower off, I stopped. I said, well, look, this guy, he's a businessman. So he was asking me, I got some trees in my yard. Y'all know, man, getting trees cut, ooh. Oh boy, make a preacher cuss. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. I'm not a preacher anyway, so. But I still shouldn't use foul language, and I didn't. But the gentleman, he approached me. I didn't, Carrie. He approached me, he said, listen, because I got one tree, it's on my neighbor's, it's in my neighbor's yard, but see, by working in insurance for all these years, I know if that thing fall, he don't have to do nothing. My insurance gonna respond. Make a long story short, the guy said, well, look, I give you good price. That's how they always start. And I was like, well, what's a good price, amigo? And he did. He threw out something fair. He did. But I realized this was Friday evening and it was late. They done been out all day. There's 3 of them. And I said, well, that's a fair price. I said, that's a fair price. Now, mind you now, I'm still trying to live in the Spirit. And have any of you ever, in dealing with believers, have any of you ever said, have any of you ever been in the company of another believer and you're about to do some business and somebody will say, well, now this is business now. When you hear that and there's supposed to be another believer, watch out. Because, what do you mean? Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. We're supposed to be truthful regardless whether we're doing business or not. And same thing in negotiations. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Okay, if we're going to negotiate, we're going to negotiate. So I said all that to say, I tried to get better than fair, because it was fair, and many of you probably said, well, Barry, if you got a fair price, why didn't you just take it? Well, I used a business tactic on it because I realized, hey, it's late. Now again, Eda Emmanuel Worship Center does not believe in getting something for nothing. We don't operate that way. We don't operate that way. So the guy, he started looking around. He looked at that real big tree, and I was like, no, I'm not going to. See, that's the one they all go to. That thing's going to cost a fortune to just get it lopped down. And but he picked a couple of others. He said, well, I can shape it up and do this and do that. And I said, well, okay, I'll tell you what. You do this one, do that one, get these down so they can see my house, because my brother-in-law put some nice lights. Oh, it looks so nice at night. Y'all provided that. And I said, well, I do this, I do that, I do this. I said, oh, you do all that? I said, yeah. I said, well, what will you do all of that for? He said, $900. I said, really? That was cheap, y'all. And then still while in the spirit, I went around the side of the house and I said, hey, my friend, come, I need to talk to you. And I said yes on the deal. So the two other guys, they got up, man, and those guys, they good. They had the equipment, and they scaled them trees like it was nothing. And they could handle, those saws are heavy, y'all. I got a power saw, and I got to use two hands. This guy, he wasn't much bigger than me, so I got competitive. I didn't pick up no solder, but I was like, wow, he can handle that thing like that. So now I know I need to get out there and work with mine so I can do it with one hand. But I took the guy around to the side, and I said, well, look, this thing is messing up my side porch. He said, look, I cut this down. I said, you'll include that? Did you hear what I said? I said, you'll include that? And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, $1,000. I said, I'll be right back. I ran to the bank. I drove. But I got him, but that guy, and then he said, he got me back though. Before he left, he said, next season, I give you 5 cards. You call me. I do all your mulch. And I said, mulch. I said, amigo, you have my word. He reached his hand out. I shook his hand. And he's going to do it. He gave me a great deal. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Barry, I took advantage of me. No, I didn't. But look, let me share this with you. Late Friday evenings, and guy been riding around in this truck all day looking for work. He don't want to go home with nothing. And I didn't take advantage of him because he was able, everybody went home with some money except me. And, I was just so elated. I got up this morning, was going in, and I just said, Father, because then I wanted to make sure that everything was all right between he and me. Because I said, I didn't take advantage of him. I said, but I did work out a favorable arrangement with him, and I promised him, and I'm going to keep that. He's going to do my mulch. I hope he don't get all his money back when he do the mulch next season. But that's the kind of week I had all week. There have been challenges, but it's been good because in spite of when stuff would kind of turn sour, I was like, be grateful, be grateful, be grateful. Because it don't have to be like this. Then I got to thinking about how I lost everything again. And, every time I tell that thing, boy, oh, Lord, I can feel the snot bubbling up in my nose. Saints, don't ever tell him, I don't care how good you feeling. Please don't ever say that, because he might say, well, we'll see. And see, that sort of thing, listen. During the fall feast days, during the spring feast days, yes, get back, pray. If it's something that you want for someone else, I would submit to you, put that first, and then your stuff second. Put something for someone else first before you ask for yourself. Particularly during any of the feast days. But this one, because this is the last one for the year according to Yah's calendar. What is it? Give thanks with a grateful heart? Really, you can make yourself happy. In spite of stuff that kind of sidetrack you for a minute. No. He brought me through that. He's bringing me through whatever. And if we're all blessed, we'll be celebrating the spring. And like I said, there's a debate, but I'm thinking first fruits. That's the first one off the box, but there's another one prior to that, but it depends on which SECTS you're in. And like I said, we're studying not to argue. We're studying because we're going to look to find out what we have in common, and wherever he say do that, that's what we're going to do. We're going to let the other people, technically, you can keep technically, I'll go with righteously. And even on that note, folks, it's more important that you be righteous than be right. I remember Pop used to say that all the time because a lot of people get hung up on, I'm right and I know I'm right. And I remember he would, in his indelible style, well, isn't it more important to be righteous? And that way you can let the right people win all the arguments. Say, hey, you know what, Donnie? I'm just using this example. Donnie, you right. If that's so important to them, hey, bruh, sis, you right. Because see, even when we falter, man will look at you and say, you messed up, that's minus 20. Because, some of us, we have because some people think, well, if all my good outweigh my bad, I should make the cut. I'm not so sure it's quite that simple, but I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But what does this have to do with the feast? Everything, because in getting closer to him, we see more of our imperfections. And if we get to a point where we don't see imperfections, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. So for me, Sukkot, and the booth, they call it what, a sukkah? Sukkah. Have some sugar in your sukkah. Have some tea in your sukkah. We ought to be thankful for life itself. And even if you got an ailment or whatever, that's all right. You awake another day, do a few stretching exercises, and just begin to thank him for that. Because if you still feel a little twinge or a little pain, you're still alive. You're still in the game. And it's you know, when stuff's not going well, it's good to try to find something that you can smile about. And all of us can use a few more smiles. I say, hey, Father, we're having a hard time down here. I mean, we're grateful, but can we have a little reprieve? And a lot of our like and loved ones, when they're going through, they have bouts of anxiety. They like I said, they get a little nervous. That's not an attack on their faith. And when you're talking with people, I know sometimes people say, "Hey, don't say that. Don't listen." Let them say what they say. That's the time to have a little compassion. Even though we might know scripturally, well, wait. I mean, now, if you really know the person, then you can say, well, now, hey, you should say. But if somebody tells you, I'm afraid, that's not a negative confession. Listen, most heroes that act in the presence of danger, most of them will tell you, I was afraid, but it didn't stop them from doing what they had to do. See, that's a person with humility. A humble person is the person that does what's right regardless of the situation. It's not the person walking around with their head down talking about they just a weak worm in the dust. That is not being humble. That's not it. A humble person will do what's necessary, and it's what's right. I'm not talking about do something wrong, do something right, because it's needed. And nobody else might step up, nobody else might not do it, but they'll get up and do it. And sometimes it'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even know they could talk. That's real humility. That's real humility. Let me do this. Leviticus 23, 39 through 43. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And maybe later on I would like to discuss with you about Sabbath. But I've come across something interesting, and I'm gonna I want to keep peace, and it's not heresy, so don't. But the more we study, the more that's being unveiled. I'll say it that way, and I'm like, well wow. It's it's like a rose bud when it opens up, because it's real tight at first, but then that thing, it just open up. And, you can take words out of the scripture and just start doing a word study and get some other translations and get some other reference material. And wow, it's incredible. But see, a lot of people argue about Sabbath. And we don't need to be arguing about that either. Because again, see, it's what is your mindset concerning that? What is your heartfelt attitude about it? That's why I say, find out what the theme is of that particular feast day and get in it. I mean, just get all the way in it. When somebody really makes something good, they'll say, they put their foot in it, put both feet in it. Put both feet in it. I mean, and exercise. Exercise in it. If you should be sorrowful, be sorrowful. All of us, we can think of a lot of things in our lives that will make us sorrowful. I'm not talking about beating yourself up, but Yom Kippur is a somber time. But this one, the one that we're in now, that's a time of Thanksgiving. It starts out a little somber, but by the time we hit the 7th and for some the 8th day, man, it's time to say, hey, I thank you for breaking me off proper. And if he hadn't broken you off proper, he will. Keep going after him. Keep going after him. And you're not going after him for his hand. You're going after him for him. See, we've been pointed in a direction that kind of we chasing his hand. And it appears he don't want us coming after him for his hand. He want us coming after him for him, because he know he's good for us. And he's not only good for us, he's good to us. And ye shall take on you the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees and willows of the brook. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days. And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. Ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Ye shall dwell in, and they have in here, booths 7 days, all that are, and they have here, Israelites, born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. I'm your provider. You know, and, you know, I ain't going to call nobody name, but I look at, you know, when we get dressed up, we know we be looking good. But he made that possible. He made that possible. You know, when you look at your spouse, I ain't going to call nobody's name. But some of the fellas, when they look at their spouse, they say, God, I just thank you for your handiwork. Yeah, because he fashioned her right. Oh, boy. That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. And remember, there was a passage that we always talk about in Passover, when he said, remember me when you're living in, you know, houses you didn't build. You know, remember me when you level up. That's the new saying now. Everybody talking about you level up. You're leveling up. I'm leveling up. I'm leveling up. Well, he makes that possible. He makes that possible. It's him that gives you good health to get wealth. But, you know, we got to remember now, all of it's not just for us. And it's not just for me, my four, and no more. And it's not just for the people you go to church with. And it's not just for the people you work with. Sometimes some of it might be for somebody you don't even know. See, if we're not studying just to get stuff. We're not studying just to get money. We're not studying just to say, look at us, I'm a child of the king. We're not studying for that. That's a byproduct. We're trying to get in Torah and we're trying to live it out because in that it helps us navigate through some of the challenges that he put there. Let me say it again. It helps us navigate through, Torah helps us navigate through some of the challenges that Yah put there. I know we're not used to hearing that in most churches because we got a fall guy, and I'm not in the street. They say he do what he do, and he does. He does what he does. But even he is subject to the Most High. Sometimes I think we forget that. My cousin and I, he always joking with me. He called me Busy Bee. Busy Bee, Busy Bee, you better slow down. He said the Grim Reaper is undefeated. And I said, well, yeah, I know the Grim Reaper is undefeated. But Busy Bee gonna be busy. Because if Busy Bee stop, Busy Bee might not get up. Saints, on a serious note, go for a walk. Don't do too much sitting. Now, I'm not saying train like you're training for the Olympics. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to walk. We need to move some, y'all. We really do. I mean that. I'm not saying anything negative. I'm saying this. We need to keep our bodies in motion to some degree. That's what I'm talking about. Go for a walk. Get your heart rate up a little bit. You know, we need to, well, I know I need to cut back on the sugar. But I don't know who led me to do this, but I bought some cheesecake. So those of you in Christendom, you can cast the sugar out of it before you eat it. But I'm saying this because in the feast days, yes, we're getting closer to him. But you know, they make me review all the stages of my life. I'm not saying you don't have to do this, but you know, we've got, all of us, we got so much going on. You know, I mean, and I don't mean that it's bad. I mean, sometimes good stuff still takes a lot of your energy. You know? And so I'm not saying you're out doing bad stuff. I'm not saying that. But sometimes you get tired. So, you know, a lot of times when we get tired, you know, you want to rest, and sleep is important. It is. Now, I know, well, wait a minute. First, Brad, you tell me, go for a walk. You tell me, do a little more training, be in motion. Yes. But, you know, do it sensibly. But yeah, moderation, thank you. But too many of us, for every hour you stay seated, you know, mix in something. You know, they got that little, oh, I got to get that for a friend of mine. It's a, look like a bicycle thing. While you sitting, you could be pedaling that thing. That'll help your knees. See, you know, some of you aren't as old as me, but I gotta stay moving. Let me correct that. We gotta stay moving. We gotta stay moving. Now again, I'm not telling anybody, you know, our attempt at playing pro ball and making all them millions, they long gone. But good health is a blessing. It really is. And I mean, everything we got, he set it up. You know, we think, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna return that person call, and you return that call, and man, the deal goes right, and you go, man, that's good. God prompted you to do that. You turn left instead of right, and you avoided a mess. Y'all did that. He's talking to us all the time, but are we hearing? Are we hearing? And these appointed times, and one scripture, it says, where he will choose. It said where he will choose. Now I know we can't, you know, it was saying that all the males would go up, you know, I don't know, probably about $4,000 to fly to Jerusalem. And then you can't stay nowhere for free. That's another thing. Yeah, you know, and I'm not fussing, while you going for a walk, while you're getting your rest, this come to mind during the feast days too. Be strategic in your spending. But where you getting all this stuff from? It's in the feast days. When you being thankful. See, be thankful, because in our corporate prayer, it is our endeavor to not just blow money. We don't none of us go to the club and make it rain. We don't do that. And now the guys that do that, now they don't stop doing that. I like listening to a lot of the former pro athletes, guys that was playing when I was their age. A lot of those guys, they were really crazy on the field, but I was so proud to hear a lot of the older ball players, they saved their money. And one guy, I thought he was just crazy. I mean, a good kind of crazy. Wonderful athlete, wide receiver. I'm not even going to call his name. But that guy saved 81% of his NFL checks. 81% of his, I didn't notice. He said he used to fly, he called some airlines. When you're a pro player, I mean, the NFL pay for you to fly, but I guess, I was like, man, and if I called his name, well, not that guy, he was a nut, good athlete, but crazy, but he was crazy like a fox. Another running back, he was real good. He just retired a few years ago. He was really off the wall. And he would tell the young guys, he said, tell them, hey, man, save your money. Because I tell you, pro sports, that pro football, that's a rough game. You make a lot of money, but a lot of those guys don't walk so well. I mean, because you're paid, you're paid to stop him. And you can't take a baseball bat and hit him. But to tackle a guy, you bring him down just about, but you no longer can horse collar a guy. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but that's a brutal way to earn. Yes, you earn millions, but then another pro ball player, I was watching the Finance Channel, and this guy showed, and I think I shared this with y'all. He showed his NFL check, and he grossed, notice the word I use, he grossed $400,000 per game. Per game. $400,000 gross. Guess what he took home? Like $1,800,000. I mean, 180,000 of the 400,000 went that he could put in his bank account. He grossed 400,000, and he took home less than half. And he did that because he knew that people think, yeah, you're an NFL player, you making plenty of money, and see a lot of those guys. A real good friend of mine, we're not speaking to each other right now, but he's still a good friend of mine. His brother-in-law used to play for the USFL, and they didn't have that kind of money, but there was some nice sized checks. And his brother-in-law ended up, and they won whatever their Super Bowl was. Of course, the league is now defunct, but I'm trying to show you something. His brother-in-law lived large. They got nice game checks, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. That's still pretty good. Because some of us don't make that a year. But do you know he eventually had to move in with his brother-in-law? And he had to sell whatever their Super Bowl ring was, whatever they called it. Because what happens is sometimes in your youth, and because some of us are past our youth, and if we're not careful, we'll still be living that way. Saints, please be strategic with your money. Don't, now, Pastor used to say this, and I don't think y'all would get mad when he would say it, so I'm going to ask you not to get mad when I say, please, don't live on everything you make. Please don't do that. That's going to give you some problems later on. And if you have been doing that, start working on that. Start working on that before this feast day is over. Now, the 7 days is over sundown today, but then there's another day tomorrow if you believe that way. I see it, Reg. Saints, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, let's learn to get into the days. Let's find out what the theme is, and then just immerse ourselves in it. Make it personal. But before you start asking for yourself, I just ask you, ask something for someone else before you come up with your list. He'll hear it all. And like I said, now the spring will be coming around soon, and I know we got a couple of holidays coming up, and I always like to, I always ask people, you know, that like to rail against them. I said, well, do you go to work when they give you the day off? I mean, don't raise your hand. I mean, if your place of employment said, well, hey, you can have social off, are you going? Well, I don't celebrate that. Okay, well, when that alarm clock go off, are you gonna go to work? You know, don't get in a tizzy about what's coming down the pike. You can use that however you want. You can spend some time with your family. You can get things straight with somebody that maybe you done fell out with. It's all kind of stuff you can do with it. And you're not necessarily celebrating that. So, you know, nobody's going to, I know I'm not going to ride by and say nothing. Now, if you got something for me, you know, I'm going to say, well, now, you know, you didn't have to do that while I'm steadily reaching for it. I'm just joking with you. Feast days are important. We're going to take it slow. We're going to be more serious as we mature more and we get the very essence of what those feast days are all about. But I will close with this. Please take some time before sundown and just tell him what you're thankful for, because he has blessed us all. God bless you. Thank you for coming.